Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jonathan Overs from the Finance Department, and today I'm going to be going over the role of sensitivity analyses in support of the company's capital budgeting process. So we're going to go over some common definitions. We're going to talk through different methods of analysis, internal and external. We'll talk through some risk factors, qualitative and quantitative. And please hold all questions to the end. I have different pieces of information marked with a subscript that'll point to the references page at the end of the presentation, and we can discuss everything at that time. So just to level set, we work for a great company, but as financial professionals, our goal is very specific, and it is to create value for the shareholders and to help determine how money is to be raised, spent, and invested within the company. Specifically now, we're helping the CFO with a capital budgeting initiative, and that means that we're looking at a variety of projects and investments to see where they fit into our company's overall portfolio. One method we have to help with this is the sensitivity analysis. And this allows us to quantify the magnitude of changes based on inputs that we manipulate. Think of it like trying to figure out whether or not an outlet in your house is affected by the circuit breaker. You're in the garage flipping the circuit breaker on and off to see what outlets turn on and off. It's basically the same thing. We're just using a few different financial methods to flip those switches. So some of the methods that we use, internal and external, right? They're common to different parts of the financial process and financial evaluations. We're going to look at our financial statements to look at some of our internal performance, determine our free cash flows, look at the cost of capital, and that's going to drive whether or not we can afford to take on certain projects or investments. We're going to look externally at the marketplace, our competition, incoming regulations or taxes, the effects of inflation, possibly on cost per goods. And all of this could determine whether or not a project or an investment is an appropriate look for our company. So there are a few different methods of analysis that we can use. We've got periods of payback and discounted payback, which is accounting for how long a project is going to have our capital tied up in it before it turns positive, right? Every project requires an upfront investment. So when do we get our money back? The discounted pay rate accounts for the time value of money. So it's the same look, but having our money not available to us, it comes at a cost. And so that's factored in with your discounted payback period. You got to look at the total present value of the project. So what is it going to value upon completion? And as long as it's not a charitable project, we are expecting some sort of return, and that's a key metric for us to keep an eye on. Then you've got your different rates of return. You've got an internal rate of return for the project. So what is it? How much profit does it generate compared to its input, assuming that you invest everything back into the project itself. And then your modified internal rate of return, which is assuming that the profits are shared across the company and redistributed. What does that look like? So you could have different rates of return based on whether you leave the earnings inside the project or you distribute elsewhere. So there's a few different drawbacks and pluses and minuses to each one, and you just have to know those and to know that each has its place in an analysis, but not one is necessarily the be it end all analysis. As an example, just take Project E and Project L. And as you look through their different metrics, right, there's pluses and minuses in each column. And effectively, Project E has a quicker rate of return and a better ROI if all the capital were left in it. Project L, assuming that the profits are redistributed throughout the company, is more profitable overall. So as a financial analyst, depending on what our goals are, I would have to advise that, Project L, despite it not having all of the green boxes vice the red boxes, Project L is probably the best move for us. So that's an example of how we're going to look at these things. And the sensitivity analysis is going to add variables to each one of these calculations to see, based on different changes in the marketplace or in the environment, how likely is a project to be successful, in reality, based on these projections. And so we're going to have to analyze some qualitative and quantitative risk factors. The qualitative are based on our judgment and experience, quantitative based on the actual calculations. Qualitatively, we're going to determine, what are our measures of effectiveness. assign numerical values to how likely we think these things are to happen and the importance if they did. And all of those feed our quantitative risk factors that are then calculated against against the different variables. And then we run different scenarios. Each scenario is a change, in the inputs, and then we measure the outputs. And that is basically what a sensitivity analysis is. It is a series of different scenarios, and we are going to use those to determine what the best project to invest in is. So in summary, a sensitivity analysis allows us to manipulate and change the inputs to measure the outputs. And at the end of it, you'll have an analysis and a determination from your financial professionals as to what capital budgeting decisions should our CFO be making. So with that, I'd like to open the floor up if there are any questions. If not, I appreciate your time, and I'll see you around the office.